So now for something completely different. Welcome to the Frieze DLD16 Micro Summit on Propaganda. Or more specifically, hashtag DLD16 Micro Summit on Disinformation, Filter Bubbles, Myths, Fantasies, the Sprawl, Interfaces, and the Post-Democratic Redistribution of Production Value. What does that mean? So I'm Christy Lange. I'm one of the editors of Frieze magazine, which is a magazine about contemporary art and visual culture. And I also curate a series of talks at our art fair, which is called the Frieze Art Fair, which takes place in London and New York each year. And that's how I met Daniel when I invited him to do a talk which was entitled Bad Planetary Scale, Delicious, with his partner Vinka Crook, who is the co-founder of Metahaven. So what is Metahaven exactly? They began as a graphic design practice, but their work quickly spread into writing. They've written several books, music videos. They've collaborated with the musician Holly Herndon on a music video, and a kind of politically active graphic design, I would call it. So working on behalf of whistleblowers, they've created graphic identities for people such as Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, and probably most famously, WikiLeaks. I don't think it's accidental that the word meta is in the name of your practice. You make media that is about media, propaganda that is about propaganda. You make visible the abstract structures of the digital world. So for instance, the cloud or the idea of transparency. What would those things look like if we could visualize them? But don't get me wrong, as it will become increasingly clear or perhaps unclear, their work is anything but an infographic. So I think to start off, we're going to look at a clip from your debut feature film, which will be debuting at the Rotterdam Film Festival, entitled The Sprawl.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Thanks for the intro as well. And the Sprawl is a film about propaganda. And the idea of the film is that propaganda is nowadays not just produced by states, but actually produced by the very infrastructure that overlays the world and that actually crosses all borders. Several names for that infrastructure have been proposed, of course, here at the conference as well. You know, I would have called it now the fourth industrial revolution of propaganda. Basically, we cannot attribute the spread of propaganda solely to states anymore. Technology plays a very important role. So we're going to get into that. We're going to show you first a little clip from the film where you'll see that there will be some sort of upside-down reality, which we meant both as a metaphor for the way that the cloud kind of overlays our reality and our territories, but it's also a way to propose a reality that's kind of like patently kind of untrue or unrealistic, which is one of the key aspects of propaganda. So there we go, short video. Thank you.
Мы заблудились в средневековом информационном тумане. Мы знали, что запросто сами могли распространять недостоверную информацию, но ничего не могли с собой поделать. Спорить все равно, что смотреть в зеркало. Выхода нет. Каждое новое обвинение – зеркальное отражение предыдущего. В перевернутой реальности спор невозможен, ведь ответом всегда будет «посмотрите на себя». Взгляните на собственный беспорядок. Кто вы такие, чтобы мне указывать, в конце концов?
Right, so as you can see, that's in Russian. A big part of the film is in Russian, and that's also because the Russia and Ukraine situation, and especially the mediation of that conflict, has been a very important topic in the film. Yeah.
Maybe you can talk a little bit more about the impetus for the film, which I believe started with Russia and with WikiLeaks, incidentally.
Well, it started with WikiLeaks tweeting a particular YouTube video of a fighter in eastern Ukraine proposing a theory around the downing of the operations of the Ukrainian army that would have, eventually contributed to the downing of this flight MH17. And we were very intrigued that organization like WikiLeaks actually tweeted what basically was a kind of alternative theory or conspiracy theory. So we started to dive sort of much deeper into the media surface of this conflict, and finding actually that, of course, in the West we are sort of massively misinformed about it, first of all. Secondly, that what's at the heart of it seems to be the idea that the conflict is sort of maintained in several different realities at the same time, which are all enabled by various forms of social media platforms, technologies, media channels, and also cinematic and visual strategies. So this is something that's very close to design, it's very close to art as well, and we were very intrigued by that. So you can say that we can talk about a kind of post-nation state geopolitics of propaganda, where you can say that technology, subjectivity, intent, accident, all exponentially collaborate to several versions of reality, which you can also say are kind of filter bubbles, in a sense, that all coexist, all at the same time.
And I think the slide we're looking at now is sort of an indication of that, or a visualization of that, in the sense that we have so many filters now, so many overlays, so many layers of representation between us and reality, essentially.
Yeah, I think that someone we interviewed in the film is Peter Pomerantsev, who's been writing a lot about Russia, and not very impartially, so it's not that we necessarily agree or disagree with him, but he has this definition, or he's looking for a definition of propaganda, where the idea is that the idea that truth is provable is being undermined. So we're going to watch a clip now, a little video. Okay.
I used to think that propaganda was about persuading people. Jacques Ellul, who wrote the classic study of propaganda in the 1960s, French philosopher, called it mass persuasion. He didn't see propaganda was good or bad. He said it was a part of modern society, part of technological society, a part of mass industrialized society, whether it's getting people to wear condoms or to get them to become Maoist. Soviet propaganda used to be, believe in communism. Moscow is the shining beacon on the socialist hill. Now it doesn't seem to be about that. It's just about deconstructing the other side, disrupting Western narratives of any sort. There's a steady stream of disinformation whose purpose seems to be to sort of undermine the very idea that truth is provable.
So you did a sort of deep dive into Russian online propaganda while you were making this film. And I'm wondering if you found what Peter just said about Russian propaganda to be true. Like, is there a there there? Is there a sense that they're trying to convey a state ideology, or do you simply fall down the rabbit hole of disinformation?
I think that attributing this position of disinformation only to Russia is a major mistake that's being repeated all over again. So the vocabulary that's being used in Western media to discuss Russia is just massively limited, I think. And also leads to, if you picture something that's 300 DPI or more consistently at 5 DPI, you're not going to get a very good idea of what's actually going on. But so I think that the question is actually this idea of creating a undermining the provability of a truth. Is that something that only Russia's doing, or is that a structural condition that's emerging under this kind of post-nation state geopolitics of propaganda? And I think the latter is the case. Yeah. So in a sense, when we talk about platforms and about social media, like our propagandistic slide now says, the platform is a redistributive mechanism for emotional content triggering all politics. So not limited to geopolitics, it would be also biopolitics, economic politics, even sexual politics. All those things are being triggered by this idea of an emotional content being presented first. So that would also mean new subjectivities, like as if nature is unjust, change nature. The idea that you can create these new positions, these new bubbles, and propose them, even if they're at odds with reality.
So in a sense, is that the utopian side of propaganda?
In a sense, yeah. Oh yeah, here's our ad. This is a joint Frieze Metahaven ad for post-Snowden web security. Invest in the Swiss cloud.
You're invited.
Yeah.
Here's a slide where I think the question is, which one of these does not belong? And it's actually not so easy to tell, frighteningly. So 2 of these things are true. 1 of them is not.
Well, in a sense, they're all true. GoPro drones flew over Syria. The Internet Party of Ukraine had Darth Vader run for office. And ISIS Adobe Premiere licenses were shipped from the North Caucasus. You could say that last one, which is the fictional one, is about this idea of redistribution of production value. The fact that the West is often very surprised by the fact that non-Western actors nowadays do have access to the same production value, not just the same networks and the same platforms, but also the same cinematic tools as the West has. So it's no longer that the West is a legitimate owner of these tools and everyone else is just sort of either riffing off what the West has done with it or kind of like illegitimately using it. No, those things have been redistributed, and that creates a kind of new condition, in a sense of cinematic production. So propaganda is a world you'd never want to leave, even if you could, which is definitely true for the ones that are in the inhabitants of reality, but not for the ones that are outside. Here we have a little collage of Tolstoy's book, What is Art?, where we've replaced the last 2 letters of the word art by the logo of RT, Russia Today. And I think the idea of art, like we're here as art people in a technology and business conference, art is a hugely important thing for this debate, because art can actually alter the way that we experience reality and can transfer reality in different ways.
Which also makes it propaganda.
Yeah. So we do just have time for one more fragment, if that's okay, which has Tolstoy's definition of art going.
行くわよ。あえてフラッグ車だけ残して、あとはみんな殲滅してやる。力の違いを見せつけてやるんだから。うわー！
Искусство начинается тогда, когда человек с целью передать другим людям испытанное им чувство снова вызывает его в себе и известными внешними знаками выражает его. Так самый простой случай. Мальчик, испытавший, положим, страх встречи с волком, рассказывает эту встречу, и для того, чтобы вызвать в других испытанные им чувства, изображает себя, свое состояние перед этой встречей, обстановку, лес, свою беззаботность и потом вид волка, его движение, расстояние между ним и волком и тому подобное. Все это, если мальчик вновь при рассказе переживает испытанные им чувства, заражает слушателей и заставляет их пережить все, что и пережил рассказчик, есть искусство. Если мальчик и не видал волка, но часто боялся его, и, желая вызвать чувство испытанного им страха в других, придумал встречу с волком и рассказывал ее так, что вызвал своим рассказом то же чувство в слушателях, какое он испытывал, представляя себе волка, то это тоже искусство.
Cool, yeah.
And with that, I
Yeah.
think we conclude our Frieze DLD Micro Summit on Propaganda. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you too.